Well, Dylan's history of sports is live, and I didn't think we'd be talking about this, but Kyle Busch is gone at age 41, joining us. Fantasy Bosco, one of my NASCAR gurus, and I thought we'd be talking something a little more historic, a little more important, a little more maybe Indy, Charlotte, Coke 600, Indy
Right?
500. But we got something more important tonight, and that's one of NASCAR's greatest drivers is no longer with us.
And you know what's ironic? It just dawned on me. Kyle had thrown out there at some point he kind of wanted to try the 500 or do the double. He kind of scaled back, said he didn't know if he'd do the double now, with the kids and the age. But we all we all thought it'd be cool to see Kyle in an IndyCar, right? We all kind of thought after Kyle Larson did it, he would be a good one to do it. His brother did it, and here it is, Memorial Day weekend, Indy 500 weekend. And Dylan, we've talked before. This is always my favorite weekend, man, for racing. I'm not a huge Monaco fan, but it was always cool to get up in the morning and turn on F1 and go right into Indy 500 and go into the Coke 600. And I've been blessed, Dylan. I've been to, I don't know, 15, 16 Indy 500s. I'd have to go back and count the ticket stubs. Been to probably as many Charlotte races. I was almost always at the track until here the last probably 10 years. I was either at Indy or I was at Charlotte every year. I mean, since I was literally 7 years old. And this one hurts, dude. I mean, I think it hurts on so many levels. You mentioned before the show Davey Allison and Alan Kwiecki. I think we're similar in age. I remember riding the school bus after hearing the news hearing the morning news, right? We all got ready for school, eating our breakfast, and I don't know about you, but usually something was on the TV, for the ticker in case school was out with snow or whatever. But it was always the same thing all the time, some morning news thing, whatever, or hearing it on the radio. I mean, we all woke up to morning radio and hearing the news of Alan Kwiecki and Davey Allison, and both of those were off-track incidences, and so was this. I mean, shoot, Dylan. When I saw the news this morning, he was rushed to the hospital with a severe illness. Like, my heart sank. Like, what happened, right? I mean, yeah, what's going on? I mean, we knew he wasn't feeling good at the Glen, but I didn't hear anything last weekend at Dover. Did you?
I don't remember hearing anything even after he won the Dover truck race, and maybe that's something Kyle didn't want to know. I mean, because well, I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to speculate. That's not. I don't want to play the what if scenarios, but maybe Kyle knew something was up that nobody else knew.
It's interesting you say that because he made a comment in victory or on the track. They do that victory lane interview on the track now. You never know when the last one's going to be. Right? And I mean, now with hindsight, what a fortuitous comment, man. I mean, and I think what really has me upset, and you mentioned this before we hopped on. I'm like you. I was looking forward to seeing Kyle and Brexton something. Maybe it's a truck race. Maybe it's late models. Who knows? But I think we all envisioned Kyle being like Dale Sr. in that he was going to drive into his 50s, right? Like that somewhere, shape and form, and how fitting is it though that, I mean, his last weekend race, and no, he didn't win the cup race, but he won the truck race, and he had a very good run in it was an all-star race, so it was a little different. So, I mean, I guess you could say, I don't know if we even count Dover as a real race, right? I mean, Kyle won his last real race.
Yeah, I don't even want to call the All-Star race a real race because so many cars wrecked before the race.
I agree. I agree. You and I are in agreement on this. And so that's what I'm saying. Maybe we just don't count that race anyway. We didn't think it was a real race to begin with. So it just, I don't know. And I think what's haunting me too, Dylan, is it seems to me that a buddy of mine said this because I've been hearing from everybody, casual race fan. I mean, they all know I'm big race fans. They know I've been a Kyle supporter for a long time. I've introduced a lot of people to racing, including my wife. Yeah. But I was talking about Donald, right? We introduced Donald, and he reached out and he goes, it feels like there's just death everywhere. It's all around us, and it's really hard to deal with. And 41 seems awfully young, man.
Yeah, and, way young.
And you got to believe he was in fairly decent shape. I mean, to drive these cars for 400 and 500 miles, the days of being Dick Trickle and lighting a cigarette in the car, it's not the same. I mean, back then you had to take care of the car, so getting up on the wheel and driving the whole race wasn't a thing. Now it is. And I don't know. I regret not having more Kyle Busch stuff. I remember one of the last races I went to talking to a Kyle Busch fan, and he was all kind of twisted up because I had Kyle Busch, Carl Edwards, Kyle Larson, and somebody else. I had between the shirt, the hat, the lanyard, and the koozie, I had 4 different drivers I was representing as I'm standing there having a cigarette with this guy, right? And go ahead.
Actually, the last race I was at was the 2016 Ford 400, where the championship 4 were Kyle, Joey Logano, Carl Edwards, and Jimmy Johnson. And we all know what happened in that race.
Well, this would have been similar. I think it was 2017. I think may have been
16 or 17.
Well, your pictures are from 17.
Right, but my first race was the one that had the red flag.
Right, but what was the last race we went to? Was probably 2018. Because we went 1 year after we had hot passes.
Yes, right.
Oh, that was the Roval. It was the Roval last one we went to.
Right.
What?
Yeah, because they changed. We went to the Roval.
What year was that?
That guy that said that's how you had 4 different drivers said you are all fucked up, but I can appreciate it.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was telling Dylan. Was that I was talking to a Kyle Busch fan because I said I wish I had more Kyle Busch stuff. But I said he was all twisted up because I literally was representing 4 different drivers between the shirt, the hat, the koozie, and the lanyard.
And I think 3 of them all wrecked in the same spot.
Yeah.
And I think 3 of them wrecked in the same spot.
I think they did. It was Dylan. It had to be like 2018 or 2019, somewhere right around there. I think it was 2018. And look, my fandom's changed. I will be the first to admit. I went to Bristol. Oh, I don't remember the year, but it was the year that Carl Edwards beat Kyle Busch, and he spun out Kyle Busch on the backstretch, and they interviewed him. Carl's like, I lost control of the steering wheel. I was egging on Kyle Busch fans for days, man. I mean, egging them on. F Kyle Busch, F this. I was looking to start a fight. I didn't care. Went back the following year and Kyle Busch wins. And there was a kid sitting next to us, all in Eminem's garb, right? Got this sign for Kyle. And I was like, oh, that's a brave one in today's world, because Kyle's still, I mean, I had cooled my jets and realized I'd kind of been a dick. And I made a comment to the dad, said, oh, that's a brave one with this crowd or something like that. He goes, it's funny. He goes, a lot of the people, even though they hate Kyle, will say things that it's pretty cool. He goes, look, the reason he likes Kyle is the M&Ms. What kid doesn't like M&Ms, right? So Kyle wins, and of course the kids celebrate and got the sign. And we were on the front stretch, and we weren't far from the flag stand. Like I could have hit the flag man with a ball, from where we were. We were probably 17, 18 rows up, so you could see the whole track. And so the kid kind of goes down, has got the flag, and Kyle Busch stops and gives him the checkered flag. And, you see something like that, and no matter how much your fandom gets in the way, you start to realize how pathetic it is to be a hater, if you will. And I didn't care who the kid cheered for. That kid will be a lifelong fan. That kid will be a lifelong fan of Kyle, of the sport. In fact, I feel for him right now. I imagine he's just heartbroken, whoever that kid. I mean, that was so long ago. Kid's probably 18, 19, 20 years old, something like that, if I had to guess.
Maybe older.
Yeah, well, because this would have been 2010-ish, 2000. 2008-ish, somewhere between 2008 and 2000. Yeah, probably around 2008. I'd have to go back and look at the wins. Dylan, you probably know exactly when Carl Edwards won, and then at the night race, and then Kyle won the following year at the red night race.
I think 2008 would have been the year Cole and Kyle traded paint.
Paint, right? So somewhere around 08, 09. So and that kid was probably, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. So yeah, dude, for all I know, dude's taking his first kid to see Kyle Busch win somewhere, right?
Cole Edwards won 2008. Kyle won 2009, 2010. And by the way, speaking of Bristol, I don't know exactly what year it was, but I remember Brad Keselowski saying when everybody got the microphone at Bristol saying Kyle Busch is a bleep.
Yeah, that was great. Well, the year I went, do you know what Kyle Busch walked out to?
What?
The I'm amazing. You know the song I'm Amazing, So Amazing by I don't even like the guy. It's South Park did a spoof on him, and I can't remember the guy's name.
And you remember the year that Kyle Busch swept all the Bristol races? The truck,
that's right.
The Friday night and the Cup race.
Yep, he did. He did them all.
And
Look,
I'm like,
he was an old school wheelman, Dylan. Do we have anyone else like that? I mean, we can talk Kyle Larson. Kyle's a little different. But, I watched the special last year, and they kept asking drivers who would they love to teammate if there was no rules, no concerns. And it was funny to see Kyle Larson and Kyle Busch both mention each other. And I have maintained that, in my opinion, they are two of the best shoes that we have ever seen grace in NASCAR.
I don't think there's any question about it. And, I mean, I remember Kyle Busch's first Truck Series start 2001 in Richmond. And then I think he was leading at Chicago Motor Speedway, not Chicagoland. This is how long I've watched NASCAR. Chicago Motor Speedway, and I think he ran out of gas late in the run. And I'm like,
oh, that was that short track that only the trucks ran at, wasn't it?
Yep. And then NASCAR put in a rule that Kyle Busch was too young.
Too young. I would say they created the Kyle Busch rule. And, there's the story that he tells. He lied about his age to get into one of the races. And that may have been the race he lied about. I remember hearing this story recently where he basically was like, we may not have told him the proper age.
But by 2004, he was in the Busch Series driving the 500 Motorsports. And in 2005, he wins his first Cup race in California. And I think we all knew, Kyle Busch was going to be a stall. Now, maybe maturity issues. There were things he needed to work on. I remember one time when he gave NASCAR the double bird, and he got bopped 2 laps at Texas.
You remember when he wrecked Ron Hornaday under caution?
Yeah, and then he was parked for the rest of the weekend. Maybe a lack of maturity, but even then, but then Kyle got married, had Brexton, and then
dude, he made the most dominant truck team ever, right?
Yeah. And look how many NASCAR drivers are in the sport today because Kyle. You think Bubba Wallace, you think Christopher Bell, you think John Hunter Nemechek. I think Eric Jones in that team?
Ooh, that's a good question.
He might have been.
He was. William
Byron was in that team. That was the one year William Byron should have won the Truck Series title, but we know what happened in Phoenix.
Kyle was good at finding drivers, man, and I think that's part of what has me bummed too. Is I always assume when Kyle retired, we'd have a Kyle Busch Racing would come back in some way, shape, or form, and I was excited to see that.
Did you have? And then, now who's going to bow? Because every time Kyle Busch wins, he would bow. Now nobody's going to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, is there a race that sticks out for you with a car? It could be good, it could be bad, it could be, what was that?
Say that again.
Is there a race that Kyle was in that sticks out in your mind?
A race that sticks out in my mind for Kyle. Well,
Yeah.
the two Bristol runs do, because I was there, right? One of the cooler stories that my wife likes to tell. So when we were at Charlotte in 2015 or 2016, what do you call it? Remember the camera they had on the cable that went back and forth? The cable broke, and the cable came down and ended up on the track. Mark Martin hit it. Kyle Busch hit it. A couple of other people hit it. They had to throw a red flag, and they brought the cars down pit road. And because it was a red flag, you can't work on your car, right? And so Kyle got out of the car and grabbed somebody's phone, his phone, teammate's phone, whatever it was, and went up and was taking pictures of the damage on the right front of the car. Like, we're up in the stands and we can see the pits. And the cable had run right over us. Like, I had been watching the camera go back and forth multiple times. And then all of a sudden I said, "Where's the camera?" And my wife's like, what camera? What are you talking about? And I was like, never mind. And then I'm hearing Mark Martin's radio, because we had the scanner going. Mark Martin's radio. Kyle's something on the track. And then Kyle yells, "Mark just hit it. Mark just hit it. I think I hit it. What is going on?" And it was the cable from the camera. Meanwhile, there were Russian paramedics in the stands just to the right of us because people got hurt. The cable came down. When it got hit, it was like jostling around and was whipping people. So it was doing all this damage. There was chaos everywhere. And Kyle's down there on his knee and doing getting all these pictures of the damage. And you could hear him talking on the radio going, "All right, hey, great. Now get a picture of this." And he's like, "I think you're going to need this." Like, they were communicating back and forth of the damage, what was happening, so they could start working on parts in the garage area to get ready to fix the car. And I guess for me at that moment, I realized what a teammate and what a student of the game Kyle Busch is, right? Like, that was out of the box thinking. And I don't know if it was him, I don't know if it was the team, but kudos to both, because I didn't see anyone else taking pictures on pit road, man. It was only Kyle, right? Kyle came up to a dirt race not far from here and basically made it a big money race by donating all this money for it. And a whole bunch of people showed up and I believe Brexton ended up winning, but a bunch of people showed up and had a grand old time. But the stories I heard from that and how nice he was, I used to think he was just a jerk. That when I was, bashing him at the Bristol race, and I have come full circle to the point I defended Kyle a lot. And I'll be the first to admit, I think people need to be honest with themselves that Kyle was a lot more like Dale Sr. than people want to admit. He was aggressive like Dale. He did pull punches with his language. It was a personality. People forget Dale Earnhardt was hated. Every time he showed up when I was a kid, he got booed. I got booed. I was wearing a Dale Earnhardt shirt at the Brickyard 400. I, as a 12-year-old, 10-year-old, got booed coming into the stands. Let's see, 94. I would have been older than that. I would have been 16. I was 16, and I got booed walking up the stands in my Dale Earnhardt Sr. shirt. So I think we don't realize what we have until it's gone. And I think you're going to see this weekend that all the boos that Kyle used to get is going to be nothing but cheers. That there's going to be nothing but love and respect, no matter what they did. They'll honor him some way this weekend. I know they will. Moment of silence before the race. They'll announce the 8 car. Something will happen. Maybe drivers make a comment. I will be tuning in for the whole event because I want to see what they do to honor him, because I think he deserves it.
Maybe my favorite Kyle Busch memory 2015 Sonoma. This was after his terrible accident at Daytona.
Oh, broke his legs.
And when he broke his leg, and people were like, well, Kyle Busch shouldn't be able to drive on a road course. Not only did Kyle drive on a road course, he won the darn race.
He won a lot of races.
In his first, well, yeah, Kyle won.
No, I'm saying when he came back from that injury, like he went on an absolute tear that season.
He won 234 races, and arguably that might have been the biggest of his career, which is saying something for a guy who won literally everywhere except the Daytona 500. But
yeah, there's another one. There's another great that's not going to get a Daytona 500 win because it's turned into a luck race.
Yeah. That's why careers are not measured by Daytona. I mean, Tony Stewart never won Darlington or the Coke 600, and Tony Stewart was every bit, if not a way better driver than Casey Mears, David Ruderman, or some of the guys who've won there.
It's true. You're spot on, and it's just a shame. I mean, Tony said, used to be everybody would trade a championship for a Daytona 500 win, and now that's no longer the case, right? Everybody would rather have the championship than the Daytona 500 win.
Danny Hamlin might argue.
I think he would trade his Daytona 500 wins for a championship trophy, and that's what I'm saying. Tony Stewart's point was back in the 80s and 90s, it was the opposite, right? Give me the Daytona 500 win, you keep the championship trophy. Nowadays, it's like Daytona's cool, but it's such a fluke luck race that I'll take the championship. At least Kyle got his, man. I mean, people knock for the asterisk with the broken legs, but that's the way the rules were set up. If it was set up the way they are today, no, he wouldn't have had a shot. And what was frustrating with the broken legs was, remember, it was just, 3 years earlier, they said they wanted to have safer barriers around every inch of every wall at every track. Remember that? And I tell you what, that's what bothers me, I think, about this illness. Like, you see the man just destroy that wall, and he crawled out of that car, knew his legs were busted. You didn't see pain on his face. He was talking to him, explaining to him, like, I got a problem. Like, the dude was just, he may have been emotional on the radio, but I feel like when shit really was real, that dude was calm as a cucumber and just knew. And I go back to when they pulled him out of the car. The radio talk when he needed the doctor after the Glen. There was no panic in his voice. It was very calm. Can somebody get a hold of the Hendrick doctor guy? Like, I need that shot. I'm struggling. I'm going to need it after the race. And he's just driving out there still. Broke the legs. Both legs. Like, destroyed them. And made it a point to be back in the car as fast as possible. Like, Dylan, I don't think they make drivers like him anymore.
No. I don't know, maybe Kyle is from a different breed of guys today. I mean, if you look at the fact that Kyle won how many cup races? 63. And look who he faced. He faced Jimmy Johnson, Jeff Gordon, Kevin Harvick, Jeff Burton, Mark Martin, Carl Edwards, Tony Stewart, his brother, Denny Hamlin. He faced
Kyle Larson.
Oh, by the way, how about the slide job at Chicagoland between the Kyles 2018, I think it was.
Oh, that was good. Well, what about the Dale Jr. Richmond Kyle Busch deal?
Which one?
Well, I guess I'm thinking more of the first one, right? Of which did you see the comment by Dale Jr. on Twitter?
Yes.
And I was like, that would have been cool to see Kyle Busch in the Junior Motorsports modified or late model. Like, that would have been, talk about full circle, right? Because it's just like Jeff Gordon and Dale Sr. The fans hated each other, but the truth was Jeff Gordon and Dale Sr., they liked each other. They have a problem with each other. They'd hang out at times,
And maybe Gordon was a good thing for him, because Dale Sr. wouldn't go on Saturday Night Live. He wouldn't do all of these things. Maybe Kyle needs some growing up. I mean, you know what? Guys have gotten involved in. I mean, guess what? Wrecks are going to happen on short tracks. I don't care what year it is. You know, maybe. I mean, and if you think 234 wins, nobody's going to come close to the amount of wins he's got in all three series. I don't think anybody will have the versatility. I mean, it's weird. In a week that Jeff Bowden and Kevin Harvick will induct into the Hall of Fame, I mean, I might be crazy, but I think NASCAR needs to put Kyle Busch in the Hall of Fame now. A little like when baseball put in Clemente after he died.
I saw someone suggest that, and I'd be fine with it. The one suggestion I hate, Dylan, someone said something about retire his number, not running races this weekend, and I said that would be the lowest thing you could do to honor his memory. The last thing he would ever want is a race to not go on, and they've never retired numbers before. Don't do it.
I mean, all ran the next week after Big E died.
Yep. They changed the number. Don't get me wrong. They changed the number, but they ran. They weren't going to. And Richard remembered a conversation that Big E and he had where they promised each other, if something ever happens to one of us, you keep racing. You know what would be cool?
What?
The 18's not on the track these days, right?
Yeah, correct.
How cool would it be if they converted that 8 to an 18 for one race?
If Joe Gibbs let him.
That's right. I mean, NASCAR Joe Gibbs. I'm just saying, how cool would it be to see Austin? And Austin Hill may not want to do that. Austin Hill may be like, yeah, I'm not going to do that.
Supercar fans, Kyle Busch respected and revered down under. Rip Kyle
That's
Busch.
awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that. That is very cool, man.
I mean, it's fitting. You know, we've got an ex V8 supercar driver dominating road courses now in SVG. And by the way, I think when they go to the military base, SVG is probably going to win by like 20 seconds anyway. But that's here and here with it. But you know, how many guys? I mean, is Kyle Busch in the top 10, top 5 NASCAR drivers of all time? Because I think he's in the top 5.
Well, I tell you what. Did you hear Denny Hamlin's comments this week? No? Okay. So, you know, there's been a little bit of a beef over the last month or so between Hamlin and Busch, where Denny has been adamant that Kyle's kind of taken things like their relationship got better. Denny made a couple of comments. Then Kyle got hot. And Denny's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And they kind of went back and forth. Well, Denny this past week said, look, Kyle, it's not a knock on you. You are on the Mount Rushmore of NASCAR drivers. Well, if you're putting them on the Mount Rushmore of NASCAR drivers, that's top 4, that's top 5. And, you know, it's tough, Dylan. You know, you and I have a pretty deep understanding of the history of the sport. Richard Petty's got to be on there, right? Dale Sr.'s got to be on there. We could argue Pearson should be on there. We could argue Junior Johnson should be on there. We could argue Jeff Gordon should be on there. Jimmy Johnson. So, you know, I think it's tough. I think we could have a long debate on who belonged on a Mount Rushmore of NASCAR drivers. But if you're talking about over the long haul, he's got to be in the top 5 or top 10 for me.
I think Kyle's in my top 5.
And I'm with you because these cars are more even than they were back in the day. The cars still matter. But look, Petty, Pearson, Yarbrough, Junior, Johnson, they all had significant legs up on the equipment. And you can see that by the amount of dominance in the short time periods, right? Like if you go look at the races, we've talked about it, Dylan. Go back to 1960 something. They ran like 54 races or something like that. or maybe it was 1957. They ran just a ton of them, and they would be mid-race week or mid-week races and all of that. He was one of the most fun drivers. I tell you what, let me put it to you this way. My grandmother used to like to go to the races with my grandfather, and she loved watching that number 3. She loved watching that number 3. She said, Richie, no matter where that number 3 is, you know you can watch it. It's going forward. And after he died, she was kind of bummed. And I said, you know what, Grandma? I got a guy you can watch. So go watch this Kyle Busch guy. No matter where he starts, I promise you, he's going forward. And so when I think about it in that light, Dale Earnhardt's an automatic on a Mount Rushmore, a top 5. If I'm going to start comparing Kyle to him, and I have for years, it's got to be in the same group, Dylan. And the sad thing is, Earnhardt drove to his 50s. How many more wins could Kyle have gotten? He drove another 9 years.
Maybe if he drove a half-decent car, but that's not his problem. That's
well, no, but you know what? Look what they did in the short time period of just changing crew chiefs. Right? And who's to say 2 years from now he wouldn't be in top equipment? We know he was still going to run some truck races here and there. We haven't seen him in O'Reilly in forever. But, I mean, I don't think it's unfathomable to sit here and say he could easily have gotten to 250, maybe 300 wins. I kind of dig that idea. I mean, it's a little gimmicky, but I kind of dig that idea, bro. I really do.
A moment of silence.
I am curious to see what the tracks and the sport decides to do, because this is shaking the racing world. It will be talked about at Indianapolis. It'll be talked about this weekend.
It'll be talked about not just Indianapolis, but Montreal and Charlotte, because this is the biggest racing weekend of the year. Everybody's racing. You've got arguably the biggest open wheel car race in the world, F1 racing in Canada, and then the Coke 600. I mean, I mean, I have no idea what Adam Alexander, Dale Jr., and Steve Letarte are going to be discussing, but I can guarantee you Kyle Busch will be a part of the broadcast somewhere.
I agree. It may be a major part of it, to be honest with you.
Is Kyle Busch's death similar or worse to when Davey Allison, Alan Kulwicki died in '93, or when Dale Earnhardt Sr. died in 2001? Because obviously we didn't have social media when any one of them died.
And all of them were a shock. All of them were unheard of. Alan Kulwicki's was out of season. That was off season, correct?
I remember Alan Kulwicki's death being before the Bristol race, because he was with the Hooters folks and the plane just, I don't know what happened.
Yeah, I know. I mean, we all know it was a plane crash. We know it was a helicopter crash at Talladega, which I know that was in the middle of the season.
Yeah.
But so for some reason, I thought Alan Kulwicki died like in the off season after winning that championship. But man, nope, it had to be in season because it was April 1. So it probably was. It's probably right around Bristol weekend.
Died, yeah.
Yep, April 1.
Caused by ice on the
plane. Yep, I would say I knew that. I knew it was an icing thing. I think Dale Earnhardt's probably shook the world the most because it was at the biggest race of the year on the last lap on the track, right? Like, we've seen deaths at tracks before, but not not the icon, at the biggest race of the year on the final lap as he's protecting the cars he owns going to a win. I think that one might be a little bigger yet. I think it's hard to say that this is bigger or worse or however you want to phrase it. I think it's more newsworthy because of social media. Because to your point, we didn't have that back then. And so I think the Alan Kwiecki and Davey Allison mourning was probably isolated more to NASCAR fans and NASCAR circles. You know, I don't know how many people even paid attention or knew that the previous year's champion in 1993 died in a plane crash. Like, oh, Alan Kwiecki, NASCAR driver. Oh, okay. I know that name. You know what I mean? I think this Kyle one probably hits a little harder for everybody because it's been years since we've had a tragedy like this in NASCAR. I mean, the closest thing you would have would be the Hendrick plane crash at Martinsville, which goes back to 2004. So, I mean, you know, when that happened, it had only been 3 years since we lost Senior. And when we lost Senior, it had only been a year and a half since we lost Adam Petty. And when we lost Adam Petty, we lost Kenny Irwin. You know, so I feel like.
And then Tony Roper died at Texas
Tony Roper
later.
Yep. I think we've been spoiled in that, you know, Ryan Newman walked away alive. You know, we've seen some horrendous incidences and everything's been fine. And now, you know, the guy who's seemed to outrun every harm he could on the track somehow dies in a hospital bed in the middle of the week, in the middle of the season. Like, it's nearly impossible to put my arms around this.
This doesn't feel right.
It doesn't. It doesn't feel right at all. And when they announced it this morning, it didn't feel right. It felt off.
I was thinking like, what's going on? Is this? I remember Kyle saying he wasn't feeling great in Watkins Glen, but I'm like, I didn't know he was on his deathbed.
Well, that's what I think has got me. It's like he didn't allude to anything there when he won the truck race, right? Like, I don't know, Dylan. I'm just, when we get off here, I think I'm going to go outside. I'm going to love on my dogs. I may even say a little prayer. I haven't done that in a while, and I feel like I should be. And I encourage everyone to hug those near them, those they love. Make sure they know it, and try not to. And I'm bad about this. Try not to let the little shit get in the way, because you just. I had a buddy that told me this years ago. It's not that life is too short; it's that life is too precious. I mean, imagine telling a client as a sales guy they got to wait 41 years for an item they bought. That's ludicrous. And that's forever in time. But for a lifetime, it doesn't seem like much. And yet, when 90-year-old grandma dies, it's just as tragic at 90 as it is at 41. This one hurts a little more, I think, because it's hard to ignore the fact that selfishly, we don't get to see Brexton and Kyle race, but unselfishly, Dale Jr.'s career was never, I think the trajectory of his career changed dramatically when his dad died. I think Jr. could have gone on to bigger and better things in the car had his dad been around. And that's my biggest fear for Brexton. And Kurt sure seems like he's turned a page. And I hope Kurt, you know, can kind of step in that racing, what's the word I'm looking, mentor role that Kyle was for Brexton, because I want to see the Busch name continue on. I was bummed to see Kurt out of the car. And this, I just, man, I feel for Samantha and those kids, man. Like, I selfishly am bummed we don't get to see him again, but
I mean, Brexton
they lost their dad, man.
Brexton and Lennox both just had birthdays, right?
Yeah, Brexton's birthday, I think, was just earlier this week, wasn't it?
And Lennox went to Disney. I mean,
yep. Here, let me look it up because I know someone just said he just celebrated. May 18th.
And Lenz's birthday was on May 10th.
It's just, this isn't right, Dylan.
No.
It just isn't right.
I mean, honestly, I think, I don't know. Well, we know there's a 100% chance of an Austin driving OCL's calls this weekend. At least 2 of them. But, yeah. Man. I still wanted
Like
to
I
see
said,
Kyle.
I'll never forget this day because it's my grandfather's birthday. My grandfather turns 92 today, and I am lucky to hell that I have him.
My grandpa's 94.
Way to go! That's awesome. That is awesome.
And we're going to see him in July. And I don't know what to say. I'm speechless. And that's not me.
I know.
Yeah, I mean, it's just.
I know, man. I'm really struggling with this, bro. Like
I feel for Samantha. I feel for the kids because who's going to be that father figure in their lives? I mean,
that's what I'm saying. I don't know.
it doesn't feel right, but
It doesn't. And I tell you what, shout out to all the people that have listened. And
I think a few people are doing tributes to Kyle, not just on Twitter, but I think Jeff Gluck's doing a YouTube stream. I know Marty Smith said some brilliant things about
so did Ryan
Kyle.
McGee on ESPN. He
Same
did.
thing.
But shout out to everyone that's chimed in here has been nothing but appreciative of him and kind. And I'm just upset because I posted some earlier on Twitter and I haven't gotten a lot of hate, but I've gotten a little bit of hate. Tinfoil hat, this and that. All I was saying is something felt off. And this is just what I didn't want to happen, man. I enjoyed watching Kyle. I enjoyed the little brashness and the little spiciness he threw back at everybody. And the thing that bothers me is we don't have that with everybody in the series. He was unique in that way, and he could back it up.
Talk the talk, walk the walk, and
yeah, and I mean, yeah, I'm selfish for all of us that we miss out on that, but no, like there's nothing we can do for his family, but I just, I felt for Denny Hamlin when he lost his dad, because that was, they knew his dad was sick and was going to be a problem, but then to have this stupid house fire happen and him be hurt, injured that way and not make it, and now Kyle and
then what happened with Greg Biffle around the holidays?
I mean, I'm kind of over the dying, bro.
I don't know. I don't know what to say. This is like 1993. Oh yeah, and then in '94, 2 drivers died at Daytona. Oh God, Neil Bonnet and I don't remember who the other guy was.
I forgot about that. Neil Bonnet even had the car in the camera in his car. He was remember he used to do in race interviews. Remember, he was the first one to do that. That was a big deal when they had Neil Bonnet do that. He got out of the booth and went back in the car, and Country Tide Lemonade, wasn't it? Wasn't it Country Tide Lemonade car?
Yeah, for James Finch.
That's right,
Neil
James
Bonnet and
Finch.
Rodney Orr. Thank you. Rodney Orr was the other guy who died in 94 speed weeks. Wow. I mean, hopefully, I mean, yeah, 2000, 2001 was just as bad as 93, 94. Yeah, probably worse in some ways. I mean, it's, it's, I mean, we've been through a lot the last few years. I'm like, I don't want any more negativity. I mean, I don't think Kyle would want negativity. I think I know what Kyle would say. Get your beliefs out there. You're going to race. You're going to win this Coke 600, and then we're going to celebrate afterward.
Right.
I mean, and the weird thing, I mean, to this day, I mean, Kurt Busch did the Indy show, the double, and I mean, he did really well in Indy in 2014,
Yeah.
I think it was.
Kurt Busch did.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's just, I mean, I don't know what, yeah, it's just, but trying to think of something great. You know what? Maybe Corey Day could go out there tomorrow night if he's driving the Spy 7, win. When maybe what they should do is for Sunday's race, if Austin Hill drives Kyle's call, put like M&M's on and maybe give Austin Hill like an extra bit of M&M power.
That would be pretty sweet.
No, but yeah, I don't. Yeah. Jeff Gordon even just tweeted it out. He's saying this is a devastating loss and one that is hard for the NASCAR community to process. Kyle was a fierce competitor who demanded the very best from himself each time he put on the helmet. As teammates who saw firsthand the passion and intensity brought to the sport every single day. He was a champion and prolific racer who made a tremendous impact on NASCAR and was a lifelong advocate for all forms of motorsports. But beyond the track, he loved his family deeply and was incredibly proud of Samantha, Braxton, and Leonard. My thoughts are with the entire Busch family during this extremely difficult time. I mean, and that's coming from a guy who raced against Kyle Busch for 11, 12 years. Like the second half of Jeff Gordon's time was Kyle Busch's time. This guy said, "Are you guys going to the Charlotte race this weekend? Went to the Rock right after Dale died, and it just felt right to do that." And then
I wish I could. I wish I could, man.
And the crazy thing about that Rockingham race, Steve Paul drove for Dale Earnhardt Incorporated, won that race. And I think Dale Earnhardt was driving the car the last 10 laps. I think Dale Earnhardt was driving that car the last 10 laps.
Well, and Dale Jr. is adamant that somebody pulled him out of that fiery car, and to this day, he thinks it was his dad.
At Sonoma, right?
Yep. In the Corvette that caught fire.
I mean, you know, mean, before you go, who's the one guy you would want to see do an Indy Charlotte double? I mean, we've seen Kyle Larson,
Well,
we've seen.
It was Kyle Busch was the guy.
that would have been a good guess.
That was the guy I wanted to see do it. I guess it'd be Christopher Bell or Tyler Reddick for me. A couple of guys that I know have some dirt experience that I feel like could get into a sprint car and show a little some. I mean, you know this, Dylan, but Indy racing was built on USAC in the open wheel sprints. So, it was a natural fit for someone like Kyle Larson to do it, right? But let's be honest, man. The only name that was coming to mind before today was Kyle Busch.
I think Kyle would have been an excellent team. I think I have another one. Maybe he's young. Maybe I'm thinking 5 years too early. But what about Connor Zillage?
You know what? Okay, you got my ears perked up. I don't hate that call. That's a good one. And he's even said he hasn't ruled out F1 entirely or Indy or whatever. That's a good one. I tell you what, I will hook my bandwagon to that, Dylan. I'll join you on that bandwagon, buddy.
I mean, only problem is if Connor wanted to drive F1, he'd be 50 by the time he could get in there.
Yeah, this is true. But I'm saying Connor talked about not ruling it out because, that was his original path at one point.
And he might, and I don't think he'll be driving the 48 car in 2027, maybe 2028, but who knows? That's just me.
Hey, Kaz, can you throw Kaz up there? I appreciate let it all out, brothers. I'm struggling, Kaz. I'm not going to lie. So, Kaz, you may not know this. Throw Kaz's last one up there. Dylan's been a guest on the show, but I do a podcast weekly or live stream weekly called the Race Guru Thunder Hour. It is a running joke that I am obsessed with Corey Heim and Heim time. So,
and by the way, Corey Heim's going to run the Coca-Cola 600 this weekend. So you've got 600 miles of Heim time.
I've got 600 miles of Heim time. We had a long discussion about Heim time on the live stream. So that's right, Kaz. So if you ever want to check it out, you can see this week's episode. It's on YouTube. Just go to YouTube, search Race Guru Thunder Hour, and you'll hear me and Sean talking about it. And there's definitely a good section on Heim time. I even asked the wife what time it is, and she yells out Heim time. So, Kaz, I'm with you, buddy. You don't have to sell me. I've been on that Heim train since you can ask Dylan probably knows too, but our buddy Sean, I've been pushing Heim for about 4 years. Legitimately. I've been saying for at least 2 he needs to be in a cup car. So wouldn't mind if you check that out. Fast forward through some of it if you want just to get the Heim stuff. But Kaz, I'm right there with you, buddy. And honestly, that made me feel a little better because I've been feeling really dumpy, man. And I appreciate you guys are just as devastated. I mean, I guess misery loves company, so I don't want to be like, oh yeah, good for you, but we're all sad and we can all lean on each other here. And this is really unfortunate news. And the only thing we can do is pick up and move on. And like I said, I think the best thing we can do to honor Kyle, go racing. I hope to see nothing but Kyle Busch flags all over that freaking track. And let's put on a good show, man. Let's see the Coke 600 doesn't always put on a good show, Dylan.
Last year's race was awesome.
Last year's was good, and I have high hopes. But I'm just saying, if we're going to look at Charlotte's entirety for the Coke 600 and the World 600, there's been a lot of races that have been kind of snoozers, bro. So
well, didn't Martin Truex and Kyle Busch all but lead the whole race?
So I was at that race when Martin Truex led 392 of the 400 laps, was in victory lane because we had hot passes that year. And if we didn't have hot passes, I probably would have been bored out of my mind. But since we had hot passes and I was walking inside the garage and all that crap, I didn't even notice it was a stinker of a show. But Martin Truex put a whooping on everybody.
sometimes domination needs no boundaries, and I think what Motor showed that night is, yeah, I'm going to be the guy winning the title, and I think he ended up, was it 2016 or 17?
I think it was 16, wasn't it?
Yeah. I think it was 16. It was either 16 or 17 because one of those years Austin Dillon won when Jimmy ran out of gas.
That's right. Oh,
And yeah,
cool. I didn't see that they were going to do a moment of silence for Kyle.
2016, yeah, because the next year Austin won when Jimmy ran out of gas. I mean, it's going to be, I wonder what the ratings will be just for this weekend, because I think even in other forms of motorsports, I mean, people, whether you're in Australia or anywhere, would have heard of Kyle Busch. Yeah.
Well, Dylan, I appreciate you doing this, bro.
I mean,
I'm getting a little soppy-eyed again, so I'm probably gonna have to step off here because
yeah, I'm gonna abandon ship too. So thanks, Rich, for hopping on, and you know what, Dylan's History of Sports will be back with hopefully some happier and livelier shows soon. But in the meantime, Rich, see ya.
Kaz, right back at you, bro. Dylan, I appreciate you more than you know, sir. And I love the idea. Look, I'll challenge anybody. If you are in my corner, I'll challenge anybody on trivia, just saying.
Wait.
If you're with me, I will take on anybody in trivia, is what I'm saying. For sports trivia, particularly NASCAR. One-on-one, you're going to whoop my ass. I'll just tell you that right now. I've already learned that.